This is Sherm Radio in partnership with Timber Media, Podcasters for India Inc.
Hello everyone, this is Archana Jarrett tuning in once again with Sherm Radio. It's that time of the week when Sherm is on air. In today's episode, we will be discussing about the relevance of organization network analysis or ONA for organizations of the future. So what is ONA? ONA is a structured visualization of how communications, information, and decisions flow through an organization. But today we have an expert who's going to throw much more light on ONA and its relevance in today's context as well as for future organizations. So please join me in welcoming Anupam Prakash, Managing Director at Maven 7 Asia, to this conversation. Anupam, welcome to Sherm Radio.
Thank you, Archana. Delighted, pleasure. A great topic. I'm totally on it these days, so I'm excited. You said it very nicely. It is indeed a way of understanding organizations, how work gets done, how people move, how they interact in a scientific way. So, as you've already said, ONA stands for Organizational Network Analysis. And it's a mix of actually sociometric science and network science. These two fields have developed and they converged on ONA, and then scientists and organizational experts started looking at its relevance of sociometric science and network science to organizations, to companies, to large groups of people. And that's when ONA was formed as a body of knowledge that will help you understand the impact of people, groups of people, networks, influencers, change agents, role models, communication, collaboration. And in fact, it's the converse of it. So blockages in communication, blockages in collaboration, silos, all of that in a manner that is scientific, that's science-based, fact-based, and helps leaders and HR experts and consultants figure out what's happening in the organization. It is more important in today's world, and as we continue to move and evolve, it will continue to become even more important. And the reason is that, the economy expands as time is at a premium, and as organizations have to change because of competitive pressure and because of requirements and demand generated by consumers and different consumer habits, that's what changes the product or the service, and that puts a change in how organizations work. Now, what we are seeing is that the need to pivot is now every quarter. It's no more that you decide something and continue to do it for years. You are making big or small pivots all the time in organizations. Anytime you make a pivot, anytime you make a change, anytime you make a transformation, that's what pivoting is about. You need a set of people who will carry out that mission, who will make sure it's implemented. And how do you find out who those sets of people are? In fact, this biggest use case of ONA, and there are two types of ONA, so active ONA and passive ONA. So talking about active ONA, the biggest use case of active ONA, and I'll come to a moment what active and passive means, but for a moment, bear with me. The biggest use case of active ONA is to find out who the influencers are in your organizations, who the role models are. And once you identify these people, and typically they're 7 to 10% of any large organization, there'll be those influencers, and who are not known. They're unsung hero. They're sitting in some corner. They're sitting in some department. People don't really know them at the senior level, but they're the guys who are go-to people. They're the guys who people trust. And these influencers will then help you make those pivots, Archana, which I just spoke about, in terms of making sure that the change happens, because the 7% of people reach 70% of the organization. At any time, those 70% of the people that you want to reach, you can reach through these 7% of the people. And guess what? ONA will allow you to identify these 7% of the people.
Thank you so much, Anupam. We'll be right back to this conversation. I'm in conversation with Anupam Prakash, Managing Director, Maven 7 Asia. This is Sherm Radio, and we'll be right back.
You are listening to Sherm Radio in partnership with Timber Media, Podcasters for India Inc.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Sherm Radio. I'm in conversation with Anupam Prakash, and we're talking about the relevance of ONA for organizations of the future. So, Anupam, where do you see the largest impact of O&A in organizations? Is it more on the operational effectiveness, talent transformation? What are the other impacts?
Yeah, so I think the two big areas we can actually, uh, identify two big buckets where this impacts. One is the application of active O&A, which is essentially the O&A outcomes that you have based on an active participation by the employees. And this is typically an online survey, and you get results. And these results will, the biggest use case here is that they will throw up influencers, role models, change agents, social hubs, nodes, networks, who are the people who are important in the organization. And it'll help you look at the organization in a very different way, not in a human capital way, but in a social capital way. Human capital way, I would aver is now passé, or it's not enough. I won't say it's passé, it's not enough, because human capital measures individuals, how good a person is, what are his training needs, where does he stand, what his performance is. But work is not done by individuals. It hasn't been done by individuals for 100 years. It's being done by a group of individuals. And that's the whole thing. We are, as humans, we are animals that move in herds. We follow herd behavior. Our whole thinking is about, we are a social being. We learned that in school,
Sure.
Primary school, right? So if we are social beings, we can't see ourselves working in an organization, in a department, in a division, as an individual. So the biggest use case, therefore, is to identify who these people are and then help them drive transformation and change. And on the other side, I'd mentioned earlier, passive O&A. Passive O&A is the field that collects data on an ongoing basis from the organization through the mail server. So who's sending mails to whom, who's having meetings, who's doing calendar invites, who's connecting with whom, what other corporate systems are you connecting to, whether it's the ERP or the HRMS or Yammer or other corporate tools. It collects this data and figures out silos, figures out collaboration, figures out communication. So these are, Archana, I would say, the two big buckets.
So you brought up the whole aspect of social capital and human capital. So what are the implications of O&A on human capital, Anupam?
Well, it just means, Archana, that, we need to take a human capital view of the organization, but also a social capital view. For example, I'll exemplify it in a very nice and easy way. We have forever been looking at organization charts. What does it give you really? It just tells you who reports to whom and perhaps what's the span of control. That's it. It doesn't tell you anything more than that. But if you take a human capital view of the org structure, you will see a totally different diagram which shows who's connected to whom. And depending on who has the higher connections, that person will be on top of the diagram, not the CEO or the head of the division, but the guy who has maximum connections. It will also show you who's creating a block in the organization. So where is information getting stuck? It will also show you who is at the edge. So who's at totally like a social outcast, who's on the verge, therefore, of leaving. And God forbid, he's a very important person for the organization, important talent. Then this view, the social capital view of the org structure will tell HR and the business entities that, we are at risk and we have to bring him back to the center of the organization. So these are the kind of things the companies really need to look at when they look at the organization structure. When they look at people, they need to reward people. They need to identify the key talent. Today, key talent is not identified on the basis of the talent's ability to communicate and influence people, because there's just no way in human capital to measure who's an influencer. Whereas now social capital will allow you to find out those people and put them in a matrix and reward them and assign them to important projects because they're able to do so much for their organization.
Thank you so much, Anupam. It's such a fascinating topic. Definitely a lot of learning for me, and I'm sure for all our listeners. And thank you for explaining it in such a beautiful way, and have really appreciated this conversation, Anupam.
Archana, I must thank you. It was very enjoyable. The flow of questions was great, and I know we have limited time, but I think you set the context very well. And happy to stay connected with you and Shyam on this important mission.
It's been entirely my pleasure, Anupam, having this conversation with you. And I'd like to thank you and thank all our listeners on Shyam Radio. Thanks, everyone, for listening into Shyam Radio in partnership with Timber Media Podcasters. Stay tuned until then, as we'll come back next Wednesday at 10 a.m. with another great conversation on all things work.
This is Shyam Radio in partnership with Timber Media, Podcasters for India Inc.